It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of September 10th, 1999. We have 3 films to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Stigmata. Now, hear me out. I have reason to believe that this exists in the same universe as End of Days, because, of course, Gabriel Byrne was in that movie. He wasn't a priest in that movie. He's a priest in this movie, and both of these movies kind of deal with demonic possessions. In a way. You have a story here where you follow an atheist hairdresser played by Patricia Arquette from Pittsburgh, a Pittsburgh movie, who was affected with stigmata after acquiring a rosary found formerly owned by a deceased Italian priest who himself had suffered from the phenomenon. And, yeah, this movie's not really all that good. And would you expect anything more from the director of Blank Check and The Fog? I don't think so. I mean, despite the fact that it has some really good talent here, Patricia Arquette, Gabriel Byrne, Jonathan Pryce, Neil Long, Portia de Rossi, you expect a lot better from this movie, and it is mostly just a generic, bland possession movie. It really is just a possession film. It's not like The Exorcist, sort of, but it's just like, it's about as close to not being The Exorcist than it is to being The Exorcist. I mean, that's kind of the way to describe this movie, and it's not the best way to describe it. And, yeah, I think overall it just really does not help the film in the long run. It's a film that you really expect more from with the talent that they have on here. And there's good ideas to the film overall. We've never had a movie like this, and I just realized there's a piece of glitter on me. I got some candy earlier today, and it was actually covered in glitter. I don't know why, but it just took over most of the bag. I tried to clean it off, but as you can tell, I didn't get most of it. So I've had that going there for a long time now. But where was I going with this? But Stigmata is just a film that has good ideas to it. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of interesting concepts that they have to work with, but it just never really goes the way it probably should go. And the film did really poorly with the critics, but it did pretty well in terms of the box office. I mean, it made over $90 million on a budget of $29 million. I mean, this thing tripled its budget despite the fact that it had all these negative reviews for it. I guess people were just in a horror movie kick at that time because Blair Witch Project had been out for a while now. People didn't go for The Haunting, so they were probably looking for a good horror film. I don't know why they found it with this film, but apparently that was enough to get people to go out and see it. And so, yeah, not much more to say about that one. Some good ideas overall, just not the right execution, and a waste of really good, talented people in the cast. So yeah, that's Stigmata. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is easily the best movie that came out this weekend. Kevin Bacon and Stir of Echoes. This is written and directed by David Coep and based off of the novel by Richard Matheson, who also gave us some other notable works, including, most notably, I Am Legend, as well as the famous Twilight Zone episode, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Just a number of other things to his name. So you got 2 really unique, gifted people working on this. Is a master story writer in Richard Matheson, and a great writer and director in David Coep. And you have a story here where you follow a telephone worker played by Kevin Bacon who begins to experience a series of frightening visions after being hypnotized by her sister-in-law played by Elena Douglas. You have Catherine Erb from Law & Order Criminal Intent and Kevin Dunn among the cast as well as Jennifer Morrison. And a story that really... we talked about it before with Stigmata. It kind of came around a time when there was just so much there for horror fans to really get involved into. The Sixth Sense, Blair Witch Project, The Mummy. This thing kind of found itself lost in the shuffle, and it's a shame because it's a really damn good movie. It's kind of a mix between what's the 2 movies I want to describe here? I know one of them is Jacob's Ladder, which there's definitely a lot of sense of Jacob's Ladder there, except that one had more heavier imagery than this film, but it has a lot of the same ideas. So Jacob's Ladder, and I'm trying to think of what the other movie I want to compare it to as. Maybe a little bit of The Shining in there, too. I had the other movie in my head for a while now, but it just kind of went through my head. So right now I'm just going to go with Jacob's Ladder and The Shining, because it kind of feels like a mix between the 2 of them. And Kevin Bacon really is fantastic in the film. He gets a really good, solid performance out of this that is very much... it's all over the place, but in a good way. Like, he really sells the film overall. It's so good, it's creepy at times. And David Coep... I mean, he's a really good director who's made a lot of great stuff. Like, he made He did Ghost Town, which is a very underrated gem. Premium Rush was a really good film. He tried to work with Kevin Bacon again a couple of years ago with You Should Have Left, which that should have not gone to theaters as it did and went straight to Peacock. But then again, it was COVID times. But God, it feels like that. God, it's weird saying that now. That was COVID times, even though we're kind of still, even though that time has since gone by and we've gotten better since then. You still feel a little bit of the after effects there. I'm getting distracted on this episode. There's just so many things going on right now, but I digress. Stir of Echoes, it's a movie that has garnered a cult following and even has had spin-offs and successful films, successful attempts to try, not really successful, but attempts to try to continue the story. The Sci-Fi Channel actually made a sequel to this that was not connected to this film whatsoever, and it barely has a connection between the main character in this film, Kevin Bacon, who had a key role in the original film, but is only a secondary character here, played by a completely different person, if I'm not mistaken. No, is it Rob Lowe? No, it's a completely different person. Zachary Bennett. I have no idea who that is, but yeah, I never saw that one, so I can't really say for certain. Now my computer's freezing. Hang on one sec. The overall point I'm trying to make here is that we are getting so many distractions on this episode, but the main point I'm trying to make with this particular film is that it's a really good movie. It's a movie that was not the big hit when it came out, but it, like a lot of these movies coming out around this time, it garnered so much of a cult following that it has had the kind of success later on down the road that it should have had right from the beginning. And if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. Even if you've never read the source material like I didn't do, you would definitely get a really enjoyment. What am I trying to say here? You would definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of this film. So, yeah, go see Stir of Echoes. Let's move on to our last film, and that is French Stewart and Brigitte Wilson in the comedy Love Stinks. So you got a story here where you have French Stewart playing a successful television writer. He's got a successful career in television, good friends, and a passionate relationship with beautiful Chelsea, played by Brigitte Wilson. However, when he fails to make a timely marriage proposal, Chelsea tries to make his life hell. And like I said before, the rest of the trailer is literally nothing but really bad sitcom jokes that are just not funny at all. And it's not surprising this movie crashed and burned at the box office big time because, first of all, French Stewart, he's great as a supporting character on Third Rock from the Sun. As a leading man, I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they thought that he'd be perfect to lead this film. I really have no idea how else to describe this film. This is written and directed by Jeff Franklin, and that's a name that you might not be familiar with by name, but you have definitely seen his work if you watch Full House and Fuller House, because he created both of those shows, and this was his first attempt at making a feature film. Kind of like how Bob Saget directed his first big comedy for the big screen with Dirty Work the year before, but unlike this film, Dirty Work was actually funny. This is not. Every single bad sitcom-y joke you can think of from a guy that's written a lot of sitcom-y stuff is in this film. It's clear that Jeff Franklin clearly was not ready to take on a project like this, and you really need to get somebody who could work this type of a black comedy. If it even, it's not really much of a comedy, really. It's like, it just doesn't have anything worth of it whatsoever. There's not anything that's worthy of it whatsoever, is what I'm really trying to say here. It's a one joke premise. I mean, it's one of those movies that exists just for the one joke, but you know, it could work if you had good talent behind the camera as well as on screen. Like if you had somebody like who would be a good person for the time period? Maybe the Farrelly Brothers. The Farrelly Brothers probably could have made this work. I mean, you could do kind of like a Heartbreak Kid type of thing before they would actually do the Heartbreak Kid remake. Only it's about 10 years after this. Maybe David Zucker. Maybe who's another big comedy director? Tom Shadyac, maybe not. But those are the three big ones I can think of right away. Even somebody like a Chris Columbus, or even a Rob Reiner, or a Billy Crystal, or even a Woody Allen. I think a lot of those people could have made this, put their style into a project like this. But when you have the guy who was responsible for giving us Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, so thanks for that. But when you have that, it just doesn't work like they want it to. It's a film that exists for one joke. You don't have the right people to make it work. I mean, if you had actual talent behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, in front of the camera that would actually fit this type of a role better, I think you would have had something here. But as it is, this is just it feels like this was a pilot for a TV series that was blown up for the big screen. Somebody said, if you want to try to save this project, try to make it a feature-length film and just put whatever you can to it, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you sell it as a comedy, we'll probably find better success with it. And this is the end result of it. A comedy that isn't that funny, isn't that clever, has some good talent in there. I'd say Tyra Banks, which I don't hate Tyra Banks as much, but I don't think she was that great of an actress, except with a couple exceptions where she was kind of perfectly cast for a role or two. But I'm talking about people like Jason Bateman's in this movie. Like, you see him a little bit in the trailer. You see Colleen Camp. You see John O'Hurley. You see maybe that's the star power they have in here. Yeah, I don't hate Brigitte Wilson. I mean, I think her biggest problem as an actress was that they got her to do a lot of screaming in every single movie she's in. They try to set, like in Last Action Hero, a lot of her scenes are her just screaming off the top of her lungs. And in Mortal Kombat, she's supposed to be this badass, and she gets taken down so easily by the bad guys. It's just like, I don't disrespect her as an actress overall. I think she's decent. She's a decent actress, but she's never been really given anything really that capable of doing anything of noteworthiness in terms of these films. And here, she's passable. Like, she isn't at least screaming off. She's not screaming off the top of her lungs in this one. So I guess that's a first thing here. Tiffany Amber Thiesen's in here. I mean, she's been in some decent stuff before. Bill Bellamy, like, he's been in some decent stuff I've seen. French Stewart is very funny on Third Rock from the Sun, but like I said, as a leading actor, I just don't think he has the chops for it. I mean, I'm trying to think, is there anything else I can really say about this film that hasn't already been said? Probably not. I mean, I didn't think I could even get 5 minutes worth of material, which is kind of where we're at right now on this, but bottom line, this is not a very good movie. It's not a good film. It's a lackluster premise. It's a one-joke plot. A pilot that was clearly blown up for the big screen. Just barely makes the feature length, too. What more do I gotta say, man? Love stinks, so does this movie. That's the best way to describe it. And so, on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. A very cluttered episode of Time About the Movies, but we got through it nonetheless. And next time we'll have some movies to talk about, like we usually do, including Martin Lawrence and Blue Streak, Sam Raimi's For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner, which is very interesting for him outside of his normal form for Sam Raimi. But we'll take a look at that, and we'll also take a look at the year's Best Picture winner, Sam Mendes' American Beauty. So 3 films to look at, and we will delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.